All right, buckle up because today we're diving headfirst into the world of ISO IEC 20000.
The gold standard for IT service management.
Okay.
Now, you might be thinking IT service management sounds a bit dry, but trust me, whether you're a tech whiz or just someone who relies on tech to survive, and let's face it, who isn't these days, this standard impacts us all.
We're going to dig into what makes it tick, why it matters, and maybe even uncover a few surprises along the way.
Sounds good.
And joining me to navigate this intricate landscape is our resident expert.
Ready to decode ISO IEC 20000?
Absolutely. It's not every day you get to talk about international standards and their real-world impact.
This is exciting stuff.
I hear you. So let's start with the basics.
We know ISO IEC 20000 lays out the requirements for a top-notch IT service management system. But for those who aren't swimming in acronyms, what does that actually mean?
Imagine you're a business owner. How does this standard impact your day-to-day?
That's a great question.
You see, ISO IEC 20000 is all about ensuring IT services are delivered seamlessly and reliably.
Think of it like the invisible backbone of your business operations. From online sales and customer support to internal communication and data security, it underpins everything. This standard provides a framework to manage all those moving parts effectively.
Okay, so it's like having a well-oiled machine instead of a constantly jamming printer.
Exactly. And just like a well-maintained machine, a robust IT service management system translates to fewer hiccups, less downtime, and ultimately a smoother, more productive operation.
Music to any business owner's ears. Now, we've mentioned that this standard evolved from an earlier one, the BS 15000.
What drove that evolution? Was it just about keeping up with the times or something more?
It's a bit of both, actually.
The need for standardized IT management has been around for a while, but as technology advanced and became more integral to business, the BS 15000, while groundbreaking for its time,
Needed an update.
we were moving from a world where IT was primarily about keeping the lights on to one where it was driving innovation and competitive advantage.
So it was about recognizing that IT wasn't just a back-office function anymore, but a critical driver of business success.
Precisely. And that shift in mindset is reflected in ISO IEC 20000. It's not just about fixing things when they break, but about proactively managing IT services to support business goals, adapt to change, and drive value.
Which makes a lot of sense given that it aligns with other frameworks like ATIL.
And even those a bit further afield like COBIT, which focuses on aligning IT with business goals.
Exactly. And for those not familiar with COBIT, it stands for Control Objectives for Information and Related Technology.
It's a framework that helps organizations manage and govern their IT in a way that supports their overall business objectives.
Okay, so we're talking about a pretty comprehensive approach here.
Now, digging into the ISO IEC 20000 standard itself, we know it's not just one document, but a whole family of guidance.
Right.
Can you walk us through some of the key parts?
Absolutely. Let's start with the foundation, ISO IEC 20001.
This part outlines the requirements for an effective IT service management system. We're talking about everything from defining clear roles and responsibilities to establishing processes for incident management, change management, and even service level management.
Okay, so instead of just hoping for the best, you've got systems in place to handle things proactively and ensure everyone's on the same page.
Exactly. Now, where it gets really interesting is when we look at other parts like ISO IEC 20002, which provides guidance on how to actually apply those requirements, and ISO IEC 20003, which helps organizations determine the scope of the standard relevant to their specific needs.
It's like having a choose-your-own-adventure guide to building the perfect IT service management system. You mentioned something earlier that I wanted to circle back to about this standard not being static.
What do you mean by that?
That's right. And this is something that makes ISO IEC 1000 truly remarkable. It's a living, breathing document that evolves alongside the ever-changing landscape of IT.
So it's not about locking yourself into a rigid framework, but about having a system that can adapt and grow with your organization.
Exactly. For example, there's ISO IEC 20015, which focuses on integrating Agile and DevOps principles, methodologies all about speed, flexibility, and continuous improvement. These were concepts practically unheard of when the original standard was conceived.
It's like they've built in a mechanism for future-proofing the entire system. Now that's forward thinking, but with all these different parts and pieces, it can feel a bit overwhelming.
So how does an organization even begin to implement something as comprehensive as ISO IEC 20000? Is it a DIY project, or are there experts who can help?
It does seem like a pretty massive undertaking. Are we talking months of planning meetings and consultants camped out in the server room asking for a friend?
Well, it doesn't have to be quite that dramatic. While it's true that implementing ISO IEC 20000 isn't a walk in the park, it's also not an insurmountable challenge. There's a whole ecosystem of resources and experts out there who can guide organizations through the process.
So you're saying there's hope for those of us who aren't exactly IT gurus.
Absolutely. Remember those training programs we mentioned earlier, like the ones from URS, APMG International, and EXIN? They're not just for show. These programs equip organizations and individuals with the knowledge and skills to navigate the ins and outs of ISO IEC 20000 implementation. Think of them as your Sherpas guiding you up the mountain of IT service management.
I like that analogy. Having a guide can definitely make any climb less daunting. But let's talk about the summit for a moment.
For businesses, it often comes down to that bottom line. Is there a tangible return on investment for achieving ISO IEC 20000 certification?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And the answer, in short, is a resounding yes. Think about it, in today's hyper-connected world, reliable IT services aren't a luxury. They're the oxygen that keeps businesses alive.
It's like that old saying, you don't know what you've got till it's gone. We've all experienced the frustration, the lost productivity, the sheer panic when technology fails us.
Exactly, and those failures can cost businesses dearly, both financially and in terms of reputation. ISO IEC 20000 helps mitigate those risks by building resilience and reliability into the very fabric of IT service delivery.
It's about moving from a reactive, oh no, the system's down again, approach to a proactive model where potential issues are identified and addressed before they snowball into major disruptions.
So instead of constantly putting out fires, you're preventing them from igniting in the first place. That makes a lot of sense.
It's about creating a culture of continuous improvement where IT services are constantly being fine-tuned and optimized to meet evolving business needs.
And that translates into some pretty significant benefits, right? Improved efficiency, reduced downtime, better risk management.
You got it. And ultimately, that translates into a stronger bottom line. Plus, don't forget about the increased credibility and trust that comes with being ISO IEC 20000 certified. In a competitive market, that stamp of approval can be a major differentiator.
It's like a signal to potential customers that you take IT service management seriously, that you're committed to delivering a seamless and reliable experience. And in a world where so much relies on technology, that peace of mind is invaluable. But you mentioned earlier that global adoption of this standard is surprisingly low.
That seems counterintuitive given all the benefits we've discussed. Why do you think that is?
It is a bit of a head scratcher, isn't it? You have this framework that's essentially a blueprint for IT success, yet it's not as widely embraced as one might expect. There are a few factors at play here. One is awareness. Many organizations, especially smaller ones, simply aren't familiar with ISO/IEC 20000 or its potential benefits. They might not have dedicated IT departments or the resources to navigate the certification process.
It's like that delicious but slightly intimidating recipe you've been meaning to try but haven't gotten around to yet.
That's a great way to put it. There's also the perception that implementing ISO IEC 20000 is a huge undertaking, which, to be fair, it can be, depending on the organization's size and complexity. Change is hard, and shifting an entire organizational mindset towards a new way of managing IT services takes time, effort, and a good deal of buy-in from all levels.
So it's not just about ticking boxes on a checklist, but about fostering a genuine cultural shift within an organization.
Exactly. And that requires strong leadership, clear communication, and a shared understanding of the benefits across all departments. But one of the most fascinating aspects of ISO IEC 20000, and something we haven't touched upon yet, is its impact beyond the realm of IT. You see, while this standard is laser-focused on IT service management, the principles it embodies have far-reaching implications.
That's interesting. Can you elaborate on that? How do these seemingly IT-specific concepts extend to other areas of business or even our personal lives?
So you're saying there's a hidden world of IT service management wisdom that we can all tap into?
Sign me up.
Exactly. At its core, ISO IEC 20000 is all about delivering value through service.
And that's a concept that transcends any specific industry or profession.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Give me an example. How does this translate to, say, someone working in a completely different field, like healthcare or education?
Think about it. Healthcare professionals rely on technology for everything from patient records to medical imaging.
A well-implemented IT service management system ensures that those critical systems are always up and running, enabling healthcare providers to deliver timely and effective care.
So it's about understanding that behind every service, whether it's diagnosing an illness or teaching a classroom of students, there's a network of processes and systems that need to function seamlessly.
Precisely. And by applying the principles of ISO IEC 2000cation, clear communication, well-defined processes, continuous improvement, we can enhance efficiency, reduce errors, and ultimately deliver better outcomes in any field.
It's like having a universal toolkit for optimizing any service-based interaction. Suddenly, this standard feels a lot more relevant to our everyday lives.
Exactly. And that's why, despite its somewhat technical reputation, understanding the core principles of ISO IEC 20000 can be incredibly empowering no matter what you do. It's about thinking systematically about anticipating needs and about constantly striving for better ways to deliver value.
Now, that's a message I can get behind. But before we wrap up, I wanted to circle back to something we touched upon earlier.
The surprisingly low global adoption rate of ISO IEC 20000 certification. And what's even more interesting is that the Wikipedia article mentioned that over half of the certifications issued globally in 2020 were in China alone. That seems like a significant outlier. Any thoughts on what might be driving that trend?
It's a fascinating observation, isn't it? And while it's difficult to pinpoint the exact reasons behind China's higher adoption rate, it does point to some interesting possibilities.
Like what? Spill the tea.
Well, for starters, China's rapid technological advancement and competitive business landscape may be driving a greater emphasis on quality assurance and standardized processes.
So in a sense, achieving ISO IEC 20000 certification could be seen as a way to demonstrate a commitment to excellence and gain a competitive edge.
Exactly. It's also worth noting that China have a history of government-led initiatives to promote standardization and quality improvement across various industries.
So it's possible that government policies and incentives are playing a role in driving higher adoption rates.
It makes you wonder if other regions might follow suit, especially as the importance of reliable IT services continues to grow.
It's certainly a possibility. And it highlights how global trends and regional factors can influence the adoption of standards like ISO IEC 20000.
It's a fascinating reminder that the world of IT service management, while grounded in technical principles, is constantly evolving and responding to a complex interplay of factors.
Well said. And that's what makes exploring these topics so intriguing. There's always more to learn, more connections to make, and more insights to uncover.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, it looks like we've reached the end of our deep dive into the world of ISO IEC 20000. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the technical nuts and bolts to the broader implications of this standard for businesses and beyond.
It's been a pleasure diving deep with you.
Likewise. And for our listeners, we hope this episode has sparked your curiosity and provided you with a fresh perspective on the ever-evolving world of IT service management. Until next time, keep those brains engaged and those questions coming.